Hari Om. Welcome back to our continuing study of this great text, Vivekachudamani, authored by Adi Shankaracharya. We are studying this text under the guidance of our loving Acharya, Swami Paramarthananda. We are presently examining Shloka 14, in which an important topic begins: Adhikaritvam, qualifications required of a student who wishes to make a success of his spiritual journey. In the last capsule, we looked at how Vedanta and Vedantic teaching was considered Rahasyam, Guhyam, Guhyatamam, and why Krishna advises in chapter 3, the chapter on Karma Yoga, and says, Na buddhi bedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam. Do not be the cause of confusion by talking about Vedanta among those who are attached to karma. One of the answers to the question why Vedanta was kept a secret. The question then, if Vedanta is not to be taught in public and therefore be the cause for confusion among people who are attached to karma, the question then is what should be taught publicly, broadcast widely, was the question that we asked in the last capsule. The answer to that is Karma Shastram. Karma Shastram, Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is not Vedanta. Karma Yoga is not Vedanta. This must be clear. Karma Yoga comes under Karma Shastram. Values come under Karma Shastram. Ashtanga Yoga comes under Karma Shastram. Yama and Niyama, the do's and the don'ts, or the don'ts and the do's, etc., come under Dharma Shastram. This should be primarily taught in public. Karma Shastram and Dharma Shastram must be taught primarily in public. Be it in schools, colleges, or public talks. Be it in schools, colleges, or public talks. Given Vedanta's popularity is waning, is on the wane, There is a risk in promoting it openly. There is a risk in promoting it openly. That is why we prioritize teaching the Gita over the Upanishads. Teaching the Bhagavad Gita in public is prioritized over teaching Upanishads and other Vedanta related texts, Prakarana Granthas that talk about the Vedantic messages. In the Bhagavad Gita, although it is considered a moksha shastra, we must remember here that the target audience, the main audience that is kept in mind are grihasthas. Grihasthas. We aren't talking about the vanaprasthas either or even the sannyasa ashramis. You're mainly talking about the grihasthashramis primarily. And for a grihastha, karma yoga and upasana yoga are key to ensure that the required qualifications are achieved. We must remember that the Bhagavad Gita was composed by a grihastha, Vyasacharya, scribed by a grihastha, Lord Ganesha, taught by a grihastha, Lord Krishna, to a grihastha, Arjuna, and through Arjuna to all of us. It is a shastram that focuses mainly on grihasthas among the four ashramas. It's not that other ashramis cannot take home Srimad Bhagavad Gita's messages, primarily a grihastha. Because he or she, as a grihastha requires a lot of hand holding in the midst of the turbulence and the turmoil of life, the vicissitudes of life, the trials and tribulations of life. Which is why in one of the dhyana shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, life is compared to a Mahabharata war. भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः. All the Pandavas who were grihasthashramis were guided through this Mahabharata war efficiently and effectively by the Kaivartakaha, who was none other than Keshava. Although the Bhagavad Gita teaches Jnana Yoga, it also promotes bhakti, devotion, religious life before we move on to spiritual wisdom. Which is why all our acharyas prioritized teaching Srimad Bhagavad Gita in public over teaching the Upanishads. Swami Chinmayananda played a huge role, as many of us would know, played a huge role in popularizing our scriptures, making them accessible to the masses. Swami Chinmayananda prioritized the Gita in his teachings and public talks, drawing huge crowds, bigger crowds, while Upanishads were shared in smaller morning sessions. The Gita balances Vedanta with Dharma Shastra, making it more relatable. The Gita balances Vedanta with Dharma Shastra, making it more relatable. The third chapter's focus, the chapter on Karma Yoga, is elsewhere, not on Vedanta, more on Karma Yoga, the teachings of Karma Yoga, the teachings of Samatvam, the managing of one's ragadveshas, with a sprinkling of Jnana Yoga here and there. Likewise, chapters 16 and 17 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, namely Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga and Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yoga, dive into other aspects, skipping Vedanta altogether, more or less altogether. Whereas chapter 16 talks about the differences between Daivi Sampats and Asuri Sampats, qualities that are becoming of a human being and those that are unbecoming of a human being, propensities that are becoming and unbecoming of human beings, is what chapter 16 talks about. And chapter 17 talks about aspects like Shraddha, Ahara, Yajna, Tapaha, Danam, etc., from the viewpoint of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. There is practically no Vedanta talked about in these chapters, chapters 3, 16, 17, for example. Even in chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, that focuses on meditation. It starts with Karma Shastra. Anashrita karma phalam, etc. When we teach the Gita, focus should be on Karma Shastra in the Gita teachings. and reserve Vedanta for the select few who are ready for it. Very important. One must feel extremely responsible when disseminating Vedantic knowledge in public. When we teach the Gita, the focus must be more on Karma Shastra as presented in the Gita and reserve Vedanta, the Vedantic portions taught in the Gita for the select few who are ready. Ready meaning who are adhikaris. That's the topic. And why must Karma Shastra be taught or be given more weightage? Because Karma Shastra is responsible to develop adhikaritvam in a serious seeker. Like Swami Paramarthananda says, often without karma yoga or a religious way of life, jnana yoga is impossible. Is impossible. Without karma yoga and upasana yoga, leading a life of a religious life and a value driven life, jnana yoga is impossible. Impossible. In the true sense, one might study Vedanta from a scholastic point of view, to study it part of a university syllabus, probably. But to really gain the benefit of studying, of being a Vedantin, is practically impossible without Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Sadgunaha, and Bhakti. Without Shraddha and Bhakti, Vedanta is practically impossible. Of course, Swamiji goes on to say, without Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga is incomplete. That's to come later. But the first sentence is crucial. Without Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga is impossible. That's the sentence that we must focus on in these portions. So when we teach the Gita, focus must be more on the Karma Shastra that the Gita presents and reserve Vedanta for the select few who are adhikaris. Shankaracharya says, Visheshatah, Phalasiddhir Visheshatah. It's primarily responsible. Jnanam and moksha depend on the adhikari, the level of preparedness. The level of preparedness on the part of a student. Jnanam and moksha wholly depend on the level of preparedness of a student and adhikari. Like I mentioned earlier, the Chandogya Upanishad story in the 8th chapter of Brahmaji's students. Indra and Virochana shows how readiness matters. Shows how readiness on the part of the student matters for the success of jnanam and moksha. Indra's humility led him to wisdom. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. Humility promotes sattva guna, and sattva guna readies the mind for receiving knowledge. Indra's humility led him to wisdom, while Virochana's arrogance, manitvam and dambhitvam, led to misunderstanding or wrong understanding. A similar story is presented in the Kena Upanishad. A similar story is presented in the Kena Upanishad. And what is that story? We will look into it in the upcoming capsules and move forward from there. Until then, Hari Om. ॐ दुर्जनः सज्जनो भूयात् सज्जनः शान्तिमाप्नुयात् शान्तो मुच्येत बन्धेभ्यः मुक्तश्चान्यान् विमोचयेत् सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिश्शान्तिश्शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ